First off, congratulations on the new gig. How's summer treating you so far?
Well, thank you, and thanks for having me on. Yeah, no, it's summer's been busy. It's been a bit of a whirlwind there, but it's been good busy. Just from going through the interview process here, and then obviously after getting the job, it's been yeah, a lot of time on the phone, figuring out coaching staff. And then you got the draft, the development camp, and free agency, and but it's been good. It's been great just having that opportunity to be in town here and get to whether it's meeting with players or talking to players and just getting to know everybody on the staff. It's been a good summer here so far.
Well, speaking of off-season news, we did have some earlier today. The NHL announcing opening nights, and your Pittsburgh Penguins are a part of that. How about the schedule release that came out earlier today and the fact that you'll be facing your former team and the former Penguins coach is now facing his former team and just kind of all the planets aligning there on opening night? How much excitement does that bring you in your new gig?
Yeah, I mean it's a bit ironic, I guess, but it's for us it's gonna once you get to that first game, everybody's excited for it. Like just the work that goes into a training camp and the preparation for a season, and yeah, I mean the fact that it's MSG, I guess obviously the with both sides of it there, but. I think once we get to that game, we're just going to be excited to start the season and excited to play that first game.
Hey, Dan, I'd love to ask you, just in regards to you've been assistant coach at the National Hockey League level a couple times. You've been a head coach at different levels. Who's been some of the influential guys to help kind of mold you into the coach you are today?
Well, definitely, at the NHL level, definitely Peter Laviolette. Having worked with him there in both Nashville and New York, and he gave me my first opportunity here to work in the NHL, and something I'll be forever grateful. And I learned a ton from him, and just the way he delegates, seeing him firsthand there in two different organizations, definitely I learned a ton that I'll take with me moving forward. And then. Keith Elaine, I worked with him for 6 years. He's the head coach at Yale. And, he gave me a great opportunity there. And we had success in the years that, that we were working together. And, he had worked in the NHL prior. He had been assistant coach there in Washington and St. Louis. And so just to learn from him. And, while I was there at Yale, also Red Gendron, who was, a great mentor for me as well. He passed a few years ago. He was the head coach there at Maine. But he's obviously he had the experience there in New Jersey, and won a Stanley Cup, and his experience in the NHL. And so just being able to learn from those two guys, especially as a young coach, those guys meant a lot to me, and I learned a lot from both of them.
Dan, I'm sure, a critical time for this roster. I'm sure our viewers would be thrilled to know or interested to know. You remarked about the interview process. If you're able, take us inside the conversation between you and Kyle Dubas, and where are the areas of commonality? What's the attraction for the both of you going forward?
Yeah, I mean, the interview process was, obviously it was an extensive one, as they all are here for these types of jobs. But, it was an opportunity for me to learn a lot about the organization, not just his viewpoints, but also, where the direction that, they wanted to go in. And, at the same time, I came in here wanting to, just share my experiences, the different places I've been, both at the NHL level as an assistant, but then also as a head coach there at the NTDP and, with the Chicago Steel and the USHL. And, I think a lot of the belief systems ended up lining up. And so, I was excited about, coming in here and the opportunity to, to really build and to be a part of it and the collaboration that'll go into it, through all parts of the organization. And, I think that became very clear to me early on, just how much collaboration and just how many resources there were going to be here. And now it's, getting started here and putting all those things together and looking forward to there, after putting together a coaching staff, working towards training camp and how we want to start building and laying that foundation for this upcoming year.
Dan, you just talked about some of the coaches along the way who have had an impact on your coaching career and gotten you to this point. First-time NHL head coach behind the bench now in Pittsburgh. What's your style? How would you describe your style of coaching?
I mean, I think it all starts with relationships, number one, I think, and that's a process that'll start during the summer. It's getting to know each person. You can watch as much film as you want, but until you actually get to know these guys, and hear from them and kind of hear what's worked for them in the past and, what their goals are. And, as you go through, you find out everybody's motivated a little bit differently. Everybody learns a little bit differently. You got these guys too, especially here, it's like you got guys in all different points of their career. And so, each person's going to be a little bit different. But then at the same time, we're going to be building the collective group. And so, it starts with those relationships, in that process, that's not just going to be something they just in the summertime. That's going to continue as we get into training camp and through the season. But, and from there, it's making sure that, we're growing every day and building an environment that's going to be extremely competitive, but it's where, the individuals can grow and the group can grow on a daily basis. And so I believe a big part of my job is setting that environment there along with the coaching staff and making sure that foundation is there right from day one.
You talk about those relationships. You have a bit of one with Record McGordy, and this has been a franchise that has been really starving for some youth and a little bit of a youth movement. And they got one in him and amongst a lot of other prospects. Can you talk about the history maybe you have with him with the U.S. program? I mean, watching down the stretch, I was pretty impressed with some of the opportunities and what he did with them in this past season.
Yeah, no, it's obviously, it's crazy because it seems like just yesterday that we were both in Plymouth, Michigan there with the National Team Development Program, and it's yeah, it changed quick. But yeah, I got an opportunity in my first year there at the NTDP. Rucker was playing for Adam Nightingale. It was during the pandemic year, and he came up and he played the last portion of the season and then into U18 Worlds with the group that I was coaching. And so, just through that experience, and then also just his 2 years there, just getting an opportunity to work with him some, but also to see him firsthand, as you will with the two teams working together there. And it's been awesome to just see his progression and how he's continued to evolve. And even seeing it firsthand last year, going back to, coaching against him there in his first NHL game, and then, going back and being able to watch his games at the end of the season and just seeing how much he developed over the course of 1 year. It is obviously exciting, and it's no surprise. He's a really driven player, really driven person. I've seen it over the years here, and just continuing to get better and better, and that's going to continue here moving forward. So obviously an exciting player who's going to continue to evolve here.
Fair to say, Dan, in your new role, 5 years as an assistant during your NHL tenure, but now it falls to you. You're the head guy. Fair to say your summer's pretty much spoken for. I mean, the schedule drops, and all the planning begins to take place. Like, how does travel look? Where are the automatic days, the built-in days? Where do those land on the schedule? Give us a sense of what it looks like for an NHL coach now that you're the head guy, and you've really got a training camp and a start to the regular season to plan for.
Yeah, there's a lot of planning.
That's so.
It's been, but it's good. I think the first thing was putting together the coaching staff. After, in addition to reaching out and talking to the players, and then that was a bit of a process. And obviously, you want to get that done. And I was very thankful that we had that in place there for our development camp, because we were able to get the entire coaching staff here together, and we had a week where, in addition to watching the prospects and being involved there in development camp, we were able to have a lot of meetings. We were meeting multiple times a day, and so we were able to kind of lay the groundwork a little bit that way in regards to like how we want to play, going through training camp and how we want that to look. And so there's a good base that's there, just from us being able to spend a week together already. And, from there, it's, everybody kind of goes off on their own this summer with things to do, and trying to just make sure that, there's no overlap, I think it's I think we got a really good coaching staff, one that I'm really excited about, with Todd Nelson coming in there. Obviously, a ton of success, in the American League, but also in the NHL as an assistant. 2 back-to-back Calder Cups. Mike Stothers, who's coming in, he's won a championship there in the American League. All of his experience there as a player, and then also experience, in addition to being a head coach, at multiple levels, his time as an assistant coach in the NHL. And you bring in Nick Bonino, who obviously is his first month as in the coaching world here, but he's a guy that I've been able to work with, and I've seen firsthand. And I knew when we were working together when he was a player in both New York and in Nashville. You just knew this guy was going to be a coach, and so he's hit the ground running already. And Rich Kloon coming in as well, another guy who's got some really good experience the last couple of years as an assistant, but also a lot of experience there just as a player. And so it's a nice mix, and you kind of everybody knows what to work on and look at this summer. And I have a lot of confidence. It's a hardworking coaching staff, and these guys are going to be putting in the time, and we'll come back together here at the end of the summer and be able to kind of piece some more things together prior to training camp. But there's a lot that goes into it. I think especially when you have a new staff and you're looking to just make sure that foundation is built, and that training camp ends up being so important, just to make sure it sets the tone for everything in this season and moving forward.
Last thing for me, Dan, and when we talk about the plan, the approach to the coming regular season, it's long been a tradition. Head coaches, people in your role today, tend to lean heavily on the experience, the leadership group within any roster. You've got some seasons, some very successful hockey players in terms of Letang, Sidney, Gino. Are you leaning on those guys? Do you find even now you're leaning on those guys as the coming season approaches for input?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I mean there's been conversations here, honestly since day one, and going through, and I recognize too, it's they had the same head coach here for the last 10 years, and so they're used to certain things, and it's I'm number one, I want to hear their input. I want to get their thoughts. And so as we're going through all these different things in terms of our preparation, there's been those conversations, and it's obviously you value hearing their thoughts and their opinions. And it's been good here so far with that.
Awesome. Well, Dan, we appreciate a few minutes of your time. We know, just based off the conversations, a very busy summer with not a lot of downtime. So congratulations on the new job, and we wish you nothing but the best in your first season behind the bench in the NHL.
All right. Thanks, guys.